Okay, so today we're going to talk about something called the FindMe app. I'll tell you what it is later on, but before that, let me just give you an overview of the things we'll cover. So we want to build basically an app that helps people find each other in Singapore. Unfortunately, this will only work in Singapore because the map that we have right now, the map API, uses the Singapore government API mapping, and it only works in Singapore. We will extend it worldwide, right, shortly. But right now, it only work, the mapping at least only work within Singapore. Next, we will use the chat database thing, that system, that the module that we have been discussing the last couple of weeks. And I'll show you, this is an extra use case in which this module can be quite useful. Okay. We will use geolocation as well. So there are two words, /location and location. And I'll show you how to use these words later on. And lastly, we will use the Singapore government API to draw maps. Okay. So the idea is basically that, you know, the app allows you to create like a secret key, and then you share this key with your buddies, your friends. And then when you key in your name and the key, the app will display the locations of all your friends, where they are right now, for that key. Okay. Okay, so let me just review a few things that we have been talking about the last couple of weeks. The first one is the Smojo chat database module. So there are three words. The first one is DB write, which is DB hash exclamation mark. It's very similar to your normal hash writes, okay, or hash stores, right? The DB read just reads the key from the database. So you give it a key and a database name, and it'll give you the value. The write, same thing, key, value, database, and then you'll write it to the database. Okay, and DB drop will delete a key value pair. Just in case you need some reminding, the databases would work across chatbots for the same user. So it's actually specific to one user. And finally, we've got DB drop, which what it does is just to remove the key, okay, from a database. All right. So these are the three different words that we will be using for the database. Okay. For geolocation, there are just two words. The first one is one which you need to declare at the very start of your app. It is just hash location. Okay, nothing else, just hash location. I say /location. Okay. And to read your current location, you just use the word location in your code. And there are two possibilities. If the location has not been enabled, or it's an error reading the location will just return true, all right? Meaning that there is an error. So true is a bad thing, it's an error signal, and you should then maybe display an error message to the user. On the other hand, if the location on the top of the stack, it returns false, that means it's okay. That means there are two other values you can read, which is the latitude and longitude of the person. Okay. So if there's no latitude longitude available, the error is true. So you need to always test for this. Now, the most complicated API to use is the Smojo API Singapore government map, right? This one allows us to actually plot coordinates and other stuff. Actually, it's quite extensive what you can do. I'm just going to do a very simple thing, which is to plot locations on the map, okay, but only for Singapore. So there are a few words from this API that we will use. And don't worry if you can't remember, because I also can't remember these words. I need to refer to the docs myself. To create a new color, use color with the RGB, from 0 to 255, and it will give you a color value. And then the next one is to convert, the next word you need to use is the word to convert latitude and longitude into a coordinate, and that's coords. Right, so coords takes latitude and longitude and converts it into a coordinate, and you can plot. To create a blank Singapore map, it's just SG. So the SG map has got a few inputs. All of this stuff is explained in detail on the documentation. I'll show you how to read that later on. But just to give you an overview, to summarize, the first thing is the coordinate, then the kind of map you want. The API supports a few maps. We'll just use the default map. And then there's a zoom level, whether you want to shrink it or expand the map. And then, of course, the size of the map in pixels. So nx is the number of pixels on the x direction, and ny, the number of pixels on the y direction, and it will then return a map for you. Okay. At a point on the map, you use a plus point where you just have the map already that you produced, and then you give it the coordinate, the color, and a locator label, and that will give you a map. Okay, and last of all, you need to convert the map into a URL, and that is plot map, and that gives you a URL which you can then call image, and then display the image as a map. So these are the 5 words that we'll be using. Okay, so don't worry if you can't remember all the stuff. It's okay. We'll just go through it step by step. So for documentation, Smojo.doc. You can just call doc with the module words as normal. Okay, and we will be using these, at least the first one, because the map is pretty extensive and it has got examples in both cases. Okay. All right, so the outline of the FindMe app is very simple. Number one, the user first creates a unique secret code, right? So the secret code is something that he wants to share with his buddies, his friends. He shares the code with his friends, and then they enter the code and their name into the application. And then everyone's location, who is, for this code, will be plotted on the map. And unfortunately, it works only for Singapore for the time being. Okay, and you can click update to update the map. And I'll leave it as an exercise for you to add in, to list out the users and the locations, and to add messaging if you want to, so they can message each other if they want to. It's not too hard once you understand how this stuff works. Okay, so I'll cover the first 5 points, I hope, today, and the rest, 1 and 2, you can try it yourself as a challenge. I will post this up, the app up, a sample app up as a template. You can download it and you can hack it later on if you want to. Okay, before I go on, let me then start with the hack. All right, so if that's clear, what I'll do is I have the sample code, but instead of just using that sample code, I will build everything from scratch for you guys. Okay. What's happening here? Whoops. That's a bit slow today. Okay. So let me just download this stuff. I'm just downloading the CU101 template. Can you see my screen, guys? Can. Okay, wonderful. Okay, so I'm just going to hack the CU101 thing, right? So actually, I don't need any of these. I'll just delete all of them. I'll delete the animals. I'll delete the bad language. Delete all of the stuff. I'll just use one of them. And we'll call it FindMe. That's the application that we need. Okay, and I'll delete this as well. So it's only just a one template thing. Okay, and we'll go back to main and we'll call FindMe. All right, and what I'll do is I'll call this bot FindMeDev. FindMeDev. The reason because there is already a FindMe that you can try right now if you want to, and I'll use that as a sample. So let me just show you what the sample is like, so you can see it. So this is the sample here. Let me just refresh it. All right. So the idea is that you've got, it starts off with, create a secret code, or you can find some friends. If I use a secret code, for example, right, I can copy this code, or I can remember the code. It's 5EE9D, right? I'll just copy that. I want to look at my friends here. So I need to enter my name, let's say Arnold. And I can just enter the code, and it will then, it worked before. I'm not sure why it doesn't work now. Anyway, we'll fix this later on, okay? But the idea is that it will show what is it called again? A map of the user's locations. Okay. All right, maybe I made some changes just now, which messed it up. But let's try the FindMe app, okay, and do it from scratch. All right. So the first thing we want to do is just to be able to display the welcome message, right? And I'll just do that in the topics, find me, and just to display a simple welcome message. All right, this will just give me a okay, so I'll say something like new code. All right. And find friends. Okay. So I won't elaborate too much on this. I just assume that you know that this is fairly straightforward by now. So N and F for new and friends, and new and friends. Okay, so we'll start there first, and let's publish our bot and see whether it works. Okay, so you got a new code and you got find friends, right? Click on either one of these, you know, it's a I don't answer the question, right? Okay, so let's generate a new code. So what's a new code? So a new code is simply a random set of numbers, right? So one simple way is we'll write a word. So we'll write a template for new code. Right, and what we'll do is we will generate code, right? Gen code, right? And that's it. We'll just do that. Okay, so gen code. What it does is it generates the code, right? Now, there are a few ways we can do this. We can just take, for example, the current time, like now, right? So let me just copy this. One useful hack you can try, if you have a function like this, you want to test it out, just copy it into a new folder like that, and maybe call gen code. We're going to just test this out and see what it produces. So if I just say now, for example, it produces this number. Each time this changes, because the time will change, okay, maybe we can use that as our code. But this is too long, okay? It's way too long and hard to memorize. So a trick to do this is something called hashing. So you say include digest. So what digest does, it gives you a word called hash, right? So I'll convert this from a number to a string. So this just converts it to a string first. Oops. Okay, so just gives me this as a string. And then I call hash. So what hash does is it converts this string into a different unique string. Right, so hashing is a very common thing. It's nothing to do with hashes. It's just a technique to convert a string into a random string like that. Okay, so hashing is very useful in computer science. All right, but this is too long to memorize, so I just want to take maybe the first six 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 how do I say, not alphabets, not numbers, but first 6 characters. Okay, so I would say I'll call it a substring. So there's something called substring. All right, and what this does is to give me from 0 to 6. And you can check this out in your tutorials under strings, right? So you've like strings here. I think it's under string, so strings, somewhere out here. Okay, strings, you can check it out. They have a tutorial for text and strings. There you go. Okay, so let's just test this out. Okay, you can see now it's starting to produce. Each time you run this, it produces a random thing, a random set of 6 characters. All right, so this is good enough for us. I'll just copy this code out. and I'll plonk it back into my app. Okay. So now when we call GenCode, right, we'd expect that it will produce a random string. Okay, so let's try this. So let's go new code. Okay, you can see this producing a new code each time. Okay, so that's step number 1. Okay, we're producing a new random code. And we'll use this code to create like a room or some kind, you know, a place where people can just join together and do stuff, right? In this case, they will save their locations. All right, so let me just stop the share here first, because now at this point, we need to talk about the data structures. So we are going to use a few simple data structures, and these data structures will be stored on the database, right? So first of all, we want a single hash to hold all the codes. This is not the best way of doing it, but it's okay, right? We don't expect this to hold. It shouldn't work for, like, you know, millions of people, but certainly it'll work for thousands or hundreds of rooms happening all at once, right? Which is fine for us, right? So the single hash it's called codes, and it will store the secret code with the timestamp. And the idea is that if the rooms are too old, we can detect that through the timestamp and then delete the room to keep our database clean, right? So the purpose of this is just to record all the time of creation of these rooms, right? And of course, we will have for each secret code also another hash stored, which is the name of the friend, like in this case, like Arnold or Joel or whatever else it is, and their latest coordinates, right? So it's a hash between the friend name and the coordinate. So these are the two pieces of information that we want to store on the database. Okay. So let me just show you how to code this. Okay. All right, now. So we are now want to go to do the next part, which is the find friends button, right? So find friends. And because I'm lazy, I like to just say find. And maybe here just say new. So this will respond both to new and to find, right? Okay. And now, oops. Okay, so here I want basically to display the, okay, I first need to get the person's name, and then to get the secret code that they want to display for, right? So the first step is to look for two mems, right? The first one would be a name, and then the code that they want to respond to, okay? So how are we going to do this? Well, each time the code is generated, for sure, we want to display the code, but we also want to store it here as well, right? So I'm going to say something like, we'll map this to C, and then we'll say C code drop, and then return the C. So this is the return value that's going to be displayed, right? Your secret code is your code secret. Okay. All right. So each time now that we click on code, it's going to not just generate the code value and send it back to us to be displayed out here. It will also generate, it will also store it within the code mem as well. So we can retrieve it at any time, okay? But let's say, for example, we want to find friends, then we need to ask the person for his name because the name is not there. So we'll check for the name first, okay? So if the name, okay, right, we'll do something else. We'll ask for the code, right? But if the name is, so enter secret code, right? And then, but if the name is not okay, we need to ask for the name. What is your name? Okay. Right. And here we want to take these two on two different tracks. So we're going to use a key here. So the name is okay. We want to clear all the keys and enter a code room. But here we want to enter a clear name room, right? So you've got two rooms here now. One to grab the guy's name, and another room to, so you can see this. Okay, so you got two rooms here, one for the room and one for the code. Okay, so here the system will ask, or because, right, what is your name? Enter. So if your name is, if the name is okay, it will say, it will go to the code room. Otherwise, it will go into the sorry, it'll go into the what's your name into the name room. Okay, so here we'll just map anything at all, and we'll assume that's the person's name. Okay, so we will say last question. We'll just enter the name, and then the next thing we ask them is enter the secret code. Okay, here like that, and then we'll say we need to put a K in, which is clear, and then code to enter the code room. Right, it's fairly simple, straightforward stuff. All right, then here on this side, we already know what the code is like. So we'll just say, sorry, we know it's the guy is responding with a code, and we'll say last question. We'll just save the code, and here is where we want to respond with the map. All right, display locations. All right, so display locations will just show you a map with all the locations of persons, people stuffed in. Okay, and of course, we're going to clear all the keys. All right, so this should be fairly straightforward if you've been doing this for quite a while now. All right, so just to recap, you enter the code part here, and now I don't have this. So I don't have, if I do a publish right now, it will give me a lot of errors. Okay, so let's see what are the missing pieces. All right, so the missing pieces are name okay, last questions, display locations. Okay, so let's just fill in all the blanks there. Okay, so the name okay, well, first we need to initialize the names here. So we'll set to now, and the code similar in now. Right, so this is the very start, they have to be completely empty. And here what we do is we want to just check for the names, we call it name okay. Now, name okay means that the name is not now, right? The name now not. Okay, name is not now. Same thing here also. We can have something like code okay, right? To check for the code value. So when the code is now or not. Okay. And last of all, I think we're missing, let's see now, we're missing, oh, last questions. I made a mistake there. It should be last question, singular. Yeah. Okay, and the last one is display locations. I think it's this part here, right? So display locations. Now, when you're coding like this, you don't have to don't code everything all at once, right? So it's a bad practice to try and code too much all at once. All you ought to do is just say something like to do, okay? That means, you need to do this, right? Not done yet, okay? So let's publish and see if having any errors. So I see I've not done too much coding. Okay, I've got success, then test out the ad. Okay, let's make sure everything is sort of, working. Right, so new code, that works. Okay, it's fine. So I'll copy this code here now, and I'll go find friends. It says, what's your name? Because it doesn't know my name, right? So I'll click Arnold. And then it should ask me for that code, enter secret code, I'll enter the code. And then it should say to do. Oh, it says something else. It says, I don't understand the question. That means something is wrong with our programming here. Where did it go wrong? So it should have come out here, but it's not coming out here, right? That means that enter secret code, it's called code. what is... Okay, so the first step is, so it doesn't come out here. It says, what is your name? And then it goes and collects my name. That's fine. It goes into the code part, enter secret code. And then it clears, you get the code for the key. It should come out here for display locations, but it's, oh, because I didn't put the double dash. Okay, so that's important here, because if we don't close this up, you know, it sort of messes everything up, right? Okay, so let's republish again. So this is why you need to test a bit. I code a bit and test a bit, not code too much. All right, so let's go back again. Let's click on new code. And here we go, find friends. What is your name, Arnold? Okay, and sort of rushing because, yeah. Okay, so that good, success. We got the to-do part, which means that we're not done that part yet, but the rest of the flows work, right? So when you start doing your own applications, do the same thing too, no matter what you're doing, whether it's for this, you know, Smojo with chatbots or other kinds of programming, always code a bit, test it out, and then code some more, right? Code and test, code and test. The worst thing you can do is to code too much and then test. All right, so now we are at this point here, we have not at this stage touched the database. All right, so there's no database that's stored. You know, people don't know what's happening and this and that, right? Okay, but what I'll do is I'll instead of doing the database parts first, I will next look at the locations. Right, so now I'm making an assumption here. When you hit display locations, that the name and the code are both known. All right, so assumption. All right. So it's good to actually put in your assumptions and your other stuff, you know, as comments, so that you know what these different words require. So name and code are known. All right, so that's your assumption going in, right? All right, so we're going to use the location word now. All right, and if you remember, the location word, it needs a slash location to work, right? So we need to actually put a slash. All right, so this is the geo, what is it called again? The geo positioning, and you need to call slash location anywhere at the start of your code, and then you can call the location word here. Okay, now if it returns true, it's an error, else it's okay. All right, so this means it's okay here. We can draw the map here, it's okay, and it will return basically then the latitude, longitude. But if it's true, that's an error, and we need to go back to the user and say, whoops, error getting your location. Okay, something like that. All right, you can ask them, maybe be more helpful, you know, tell them what they can do, for example. In many cases, it's just a question of resetting the permissions on the browser. Now, otherwise, we have at this stage here a lat and lon. So latitude and longitude give you the position of the person on the globe, on the planet. Okay, so we're going to call the coords word. Now, at this stage, what I'll do is I will, because I also forget docs, Smojo docs, right? And I'm going to call the document for Smojo/API/SG/gov/map. Okay. Right, there's a full tutorial for this in the BuzzBee template. But here you can see, I'll just ignore all the stuff. The first one is the coords. Coords, where is that? Oh, okay, coords is actually built into one of these things here, and it converts into a coordinate. The next thing you need to know is the SG map. SG map takes the coordinate, a layer type, a zoom, a height, width, and produces a map. Okay, so that's a bit of a mouthful. And I'm just going to be lazy and just copy off this sample. Okay, so there's sample code out here that you can look, and you can see that we need to import the SG, the map thing first. So let's go back to FindMe. We need to put in the map thing here as an import. You can do it here, or you can do it in main.m. Either way is fine. And I'm going to just copy the code here. Oops, where is that? Yeah. So here there's a sample code somewhere here. There you go. Okay. So this is the basic thing here. We're going to do. So what we're going to do is we're going to first convert it into a coordinate, the lat and long that comes out of here into a coordinate using chords. And then we'll bind it to X, let's say, for example, right? And then we can call up the map, right? So we can say X. So at this stage, this produces a map, right? Which hasn't been displayed yet. Now, at the end of that, we want to also call plot, sorry, map plot, I think, plot map, yeah? So plot map converts it into a URL. And then we call the usual image, because image takes a URL and makes it visible. So I'm not going to do anything else here. Let's just, again, test this out and see if it's going to work. So here, I need to do a few things. I need to plot the user's location. And then I need to plot his friend's locations, right? Plot all friend. All right. Okay. So that's clear enough, right? Okay. So let's test this out. It won't do this yet. It should just plot the map. So let's test. So I'll go to find friends again. Arnold. Oops. Let me say, right now I'll just keep some random rubbish. Right, because we're not using it yet, it's discarded. And you can see here, I have got a map that's being plotted out here, but it's a bit too fine scale. I'm going to scale it up to use a coarser scale. I'll use a scale 1 and maybe make the map a bit bigger, as I say 400 by 400 pixels, 4,000. And then I also want to just change the bubble width here. I think bubble width property is pretty good. It can change to 400. And I don't want to display so many of these things. I just want to limit it to 3. Okay. So I'm going to publish it again. And just try this again. Just find will map. So enter the secret code. Right. So, oops. Right. Remember, it's discarded right now. And you can see here, at least it plots out the map of Singapore. Okay. Now, the next step, I want to plot my location. So to plot my location, I need to, that's this step here. I need to call in X. So it is plus points, right? So let me call it the documentation again. The thing that you want to use is plus point, which takes the map is already on the stack, the coordinates, color, and a label. Right, so remember the color is an RGB color. So this is how you do it. So let's say for this one, I want to make it red. Okay, so it's the coordinates, the color, label, and then plus point. All right, so let's say the color is red, and I'll put in an X. All right, you can only have one character for the locator, and then if you try to do more than 1 or 0, it'll give you an error. Okay, it won't plot the right thing. Right, plus point. But we don't have a function red, so let's make a function red. And we know it is the 25500, which is RGB color, right? And maybe we have another one for yellow as well. 255, let's say 180. I don't know if that works or not. This is yellow. All right, so you got 2 different colors here. I'm going to use red to plot my own location. And let me just try this out first, publish it. Okay, I just go back to the same map. I can find Okay, and remember, I'm not using the code now. Ah, okay, so I've hit an error somewhere here, and where's the error? So obviously it's somewhere on this side that is hitting a bug, right? So what we need to do is figure out, where has it gone wrong? So let's go back to documentation and check and see whether we've done the right thing. All right, so you got the map, that's correct. We've got the coordinates, got the color, the label, and the map. That should be fine. And we call color already. That's correct. Let's try it again. Do you see correctly? Color is correct. Right. Okay, we got a sample code out here. So let's see where we went wrong. That is X yellow plus point. That looks good. That part is okay. Okay, let me just comment this out first and see if it works or not. Or it could be that this thing needed to be redone from scratch. So let's find friends. Arnold. And that should work. Okay, that works fine. And let's go back here again and call this out. Republish. Yeah, okay, so now it's actually responding with my location here, and I live near Jurong East, Bukit Batok, right? So it's correct. This is fine. Okay, so now we want to move on to the next stage, which is the harder part, which is to store the location. We want to store this location. And remember, we are assuming the person's name and code are both known. All right, so we want to actually store this stuff, right? So we call X save location. Right, so save location is going to save that location for us onto the database. All right, so that's a two-step process. I'm going to put all the database codes somewhere up here. All right, so we'll call it save location. All right, I've got the code. And what I'm going to do is going to save this. So again, this thing is a two-step process. The first thing I want to do when I'm saving the location is first to retrieve the code. Okay, remember what we discussed was that there are two different data structures that we're going to use. The first one is the list of codes, but that we haven't done that yet. And the second is where we have the coordinate and we have the name, and it's a name key value pair for a certain code. So let me show you what I mean. Okay, so I'm going to bind this to X. Okay, and then I'm going to call the code for this app, FindMe. So the app is called FindMe, and I'm going to call db hash app. So what this is going to do is it's going to look up the code under this how do I say it? Database. Okay, the database itself is called FindMe. All right, and I need to include obviously the chat database. All right, that's where all these words are found. So now here it could be nothing at all. So do now. It's null. I just want to drop that and just add a blank hash. Okay, I'm going to bind this to my locations. Okay. All right. Now, I want to add my name under this location X. So I know my name. I'm assuming I know my name. So this assumes name and code are known. All right. So if they're not known, you're going to have problems. All right. So you need to ensure that they are known. All right. So here, name. Okay. I'm going to call the X and I'm going to put it into access. So all this is doing here for us, right? First I retrieve the this is a hash of all the names with their location. So let's say my name is Joe. I've got this location. Arnold is this location, and maybe Vincent another location, etc. Right? So I've got different locations. I'm going to sort it into this hash access. It's a normal hash. I'm going to then store my own name with my location to this hash. And then last of all, I need to store this hash back under this code, right? So it's called code access. Okay. And that should be it. So this actually what it does is it just saves our locations into the database. All right. So now at this point, we need to test it out to make sure everything works and there's nothing that breaks, right? All right. So again, nothing is happening here. I've only just saved the location at this stage, right? So let's try it again to publish. Okay, fortunately success. All right, so let's try a new code first. So let's copy this code out. And then we'll find the friends. Arnold. And the code is this. And I'm hitting a bad gateway. So it means that I made some kind of mistake or error in the code somewhere here. Okay. And I'll figure out what that part or what that is all about. Okay, so let's look at it step by step. So when you have something like this, first we got to figure out where does the error lie. Is it here or here or here? Okay, so the first step is for us to just comment everything out and see if that creates an error. Okay, so new code. I've got my code. Find my friends. And enter the secret code. I got that. Okay, that works. That means the error was somewhere in the databasing part. Okay, so we'll just see where that error lies. Okay, so let's try this first. We'll uncomment this part here. And this looks okay to me. All right, so let's just publish again. Okay, we'll just use the old code that we have. I had a code there already. Okay, this part is still okay, right? So it can't be this part. It's not this part either. Okay, this part is unlikely to be the problem. Let's try this though. Oops. Okay, code XS FindMe DB. That should work now, unless there was a problem, intermittent problem or something. Let's just try this out. Okay. Find friends. Well, it works. Okay, maybe that was just a passing thing. Okay, so that works. Let's try with a new code. So let's try it with a new code first. The secret code is this. Okay, then we go click on Find Friends. Oh no. Enter my code. And that works as well. Okay. All right. So now we know it's stored on the database. We want to check and see whether it's really stored or not. Okay, we need to check this part. Right. So what we're going to do is we're going to create a new script called admin. Right. So I'll just save it on the top here. Okay, what admin is going to do is it's going to perform some simple administrative tests for us. So here, I'm going to call the database here, /test. And then all I want to do is display. And what it's going to do here, it is going to call I'm going to add in a name for the location, code, and it's going to produce something, right? So find like that. That's all it does. Okay. So I've got the code that I've used here, which is this one. And I want to know if is it actually storing anything or not on the database itself, right? So that's all it's going to do here. All right, I had to call test because I'm running this within the IDE and not from the chatbot itself. So I'm just going to play this. And you can see here the lat and long is saved. This is my name and the lat and long. Now, if I type in a different name, then that would add another. So you can see here, it's a name followed by a coordinate, right? If I go back and let's say if I did this, I say find friends, and my name is Joel. Okay. And the code is oops, not this one. The code is the same, like this. Right. So Joel and Arnold should be on the same room. Okay. So now you can't see anything displayed yet, but if we run this now, it shouldn't just be Arnold, it should be Arnold and Joel. So let's test it out. And you can see here, that's Arnold here, and that's Joel here as well. Okay, there are two users. Okay, what we haven't done yet so far is to, so this is my little admin console. What I haven't done so far is to actually now two things. The first part is when I generate the code here, I want to save the code onto the database itself. Okay, I need to save it onto the database. So I need to call save code. All right, so that's the database thing, right? I've got the save location. I want to save code, right? So here, save code. I've got some codes, right, which I'm going to save, right? And it's very similar. I need to first call, remember, this is the other data structure I'm going to use. It is on FindMe, right? And all it is a hash of the code with the timestamp. So this allows me to find out when the codes were created so I can delete the codes later on, right? So db hash at, again, dupe null. And I'll call it CS for codes. And then I want to add the current code with the current timestamp. So C now, C hash at, and then I'm going to save this back into the database codes CS find. Oop. Okay, so it's very similar to save location. All it's doing here is to just save the code back as a hash, and I'll show you that in action later on. Okay, so we made that change. We know everything works so far. This is why you should test a bit and code a bit and test a bit, because if you code too much, then you get a bug. You don't know where it stops. But if you code a bit, test a bit, then you hit an error. You know it's the part that you just did. All right, it saves you a lot of time. Okay, and I think good programmers do that all the time. Okay, so let's try this again. So I'll have to call new code, sorry. New code instead. Right, so it's got the secret code, it works. So actually it's saved this code, it should have saved this code onto the database, right? So let's check this out. All right, let's go to admin again, and we'll say instead display codes, right? So here, another function here called display codes. Right, all it's going to do is it's just going to take the codes and just dump it, right? But because, yeah, just jump it. Right, and I'll call display. Right, so let me just play this, and we should see a few codes. Yeah, there's one here, and I think somebody else made this as well. Okay, but this is the one that I just did just now. Okay. All right, and this is a timestamp, so we can tell when these things were created, so that we can clean it up later on. I'll show you how to do that some other time. Okay, so let's move on. So now we've each time that the user creates a code, it's saved. We've got the locations. We have all the locations, right? And so at this point, all we want to do is have a third thing, which is to get the locations, right? Get locations. And this should be a sequence of coordinates that we can plot, right? So it's got to be a sequence of coordinates, right? So to get the locations, we need the code. So assumes that the code is known. So here assumes code and name is known. This one assumes the code is known. Code is known. Or what we can do is we can supply this with a code. It's probably even better. Then we don't have to make the assumption. All right. So just like here, we have a code. We call it code like that. Okay. So we got the code already. FindMe. All right. db hash at. And again, if it's null, what do we do? Right. We drop it and we just return a blank hash, a nil sequence, because we need to return a sequence, right? So it's nil, right? Otherwise, if it is not null, don't forget this is actually under each code is a hash. So we just return the values, right? So get locations. Once we feed it the code, it can give us the sequence of coordinates we need to plot. Okay, so coming back, how do we use this? How do we use this? It's here at this stage here, right? So we need to call in the code that we are asking for the room you're asking for. And then we want to get all the locations, right? So we get location, good locations, right? Locations. And then all we want to do is to call the plus point repeatedly, right? So we're going to reduce this, right? So it is going to be the coordinate, which is already there from get locations. And then we're going to use a yellow. Excuse me. That was my alarm to tell me that I am out of time. Okay, so it's yellow. And we can give it a blank marker and plus point. Okay, so what this does is just to call this again and again. This reduction will call it again and again on all of the locations that we have extracted from the database. All right, so now let me just try this and see if it works. All right, publish it. Okay. All right, so I click on new code. Oh wait, I had one before, and instead of a new code, I had one before. It was called this one here, right? So let me look at this one and see. You can just see the locations as well. Yeah, so here I've got Arnold and I've got Joel as well. So I've got two people here, not just myself. But unfortunately, the locations will be exactly the same because, or nearly exactly the same, because they're coming from almost the same location. There'll always be some error. You can see here, although it's the same, I'm sitting in the same place, my laptop hasn't moved, but it's slightly different because there'll be errors in geopositioning, right? It's not entirely accurate. So the idea is that I'll use this room instead. Okay, close this up. Okay, so instead of using this one here, let me just let me start this again. Go back to main, publish, go back there. So I'm using the existing room because it already has got more than one person. Okay, my script code is that, and I hit a bad game. Okay, let's see why. Okay, that could be a database latency issue. I think I'll probably change some stuff, but I'm not sure if you can see this. This probably is going to plot in more than one location, right? Maybe one of you can try it. Vincent, you're in Singapore, right?
Yeah.
Can you try this? Just go back to the chat demo / FindMe dev.
Yeah, I tried to copy the link there.
You don't have to do all the rest, just this part
Yeah.
here.
Dot Smojo. Then
The code is, you can use this existing code here.
yeah, chat demo, then
/ FindMe dev.
me dev. Yeah.
Yeah. And the code is 80C44E.
80C44E.
Okay.
Well, I don't understand the question.
Oh no, you have to clicking on find friends.
Oh, okay, find friends. Okay.
So I think previously we got the 502s because there were some latency issues with the database.
80C44E. Yeah, okay.
Yep.
80C44E. Yeah, I think it's plotted me at the Geylang area, which is where I am right now.
Okay, so let me just run this as well. So we should see both our locations on this. But before I do that, maybe we can just make a simple addition to this map, put an update button here. So we click on update, it just redraws the map, right? That's probably nice to have. So I'm going to click have a new button here called update. And it will be where I display the locations here. So I can use the new MM system. And right, I'm going to click a button called update. Okay, and here I'm going to say update Q update. Okay, and all it's going to do is just to call this thing again. Okay, So again, it assumes that the name and the code are both known. So let me just republish the bot. Go in there. And I click on Find Friends. My name is Arnold. And secret code is, oh, what was it again? It's 80 something. Okay, 80C44E, right? 80C44E. And oh, okay, so it doesn't display your marker though. Does it? Okay, so let's check this bit and see what happens. Okay, so first we need to check and see using our admin tool whether Vincent's location is in the database or not, right? So let's just try that out first. Okay, so yeah, it's there. You can see Vincent's location is out there. Arnold and the hypothetical Joel is out there, right? Okay, so we need to figure out what went wrong here, and that is really in this part of the code where we get the locations and then we want to print out the locations again through a reduction, right? So one of few things could have happened. Maybe it written now, for example. Okay. So you got code, we got get locations. Plus point reduce, that looks okay to me. So what we can do here is we can debug this by maybe removing this part, or we can check and see what's going on out here, right? What's going on out here, right? One way we can do that is just to do a check here. So it's FindMe db at null drop nil, otherwise return the values. That looks good. Did I make any mistake? No, not there. That's fine. Okay, so let's look and see where we went wrong with this. It could be that the thing doesn't like a blank and we need to put in something like an A, for example. That's a part of the API's fussiness. It's outside our control. But let's just see if that's the case. Okay, so find friends again. Arnold. And that's the code. Okay. Nope, I don't see you anywhere. And you are somewhere in Geylang, right? Oh, it could be that it's cutting us off. So we're not seeing the full part of the map, right? So maybe it's just a map. The map is too small, right? It's not covering everything. So one thing.
Yeah, actually, I can't see you at the Jurong East also because it's cut off already.
Okay, so let's make the map 600 by 600 pixels. Maybe that might help. We click publish again. Find friends.
Yeah, I can see a A right at Jurong East already.
There you see. So that's where he is, and that's where I am, right? But you can see here the map is not that great. This can be actually improved a bit.
But how come A is at the Geylang?
Because that's you. Because yeah, if you did it, the A will be here and you will be on the.
I see. Yeah, it's the other way around. Yeah.
Yes. And if anyone else joins us, we were able to see that as well, right?
I thought William say he's enter his location also, but didn't see his.
Yeah, I couldn't see.
Okay, so let's check and see whether the database has got you, William. Okay. So let's
The
put
code
down
is B0C44E, right?
80.
80, yeah.
B0, yeah,
No,
correct.
no,
80C44E.
880.
Oh, 80, sorry. I put B0. No
Yeah,
wonder.
you're not on the list here.
Yeah, so that's why you're not in the map. C44E.
Yeah, and that will then just, we can just update the map. Okay.
Yeah, okay, I can see you.
But we can't see you.
Yeah,
You can update.
we can't see you.
I can't see you at least. Ah,
Yeah.
yes.
Oh, is it?
Okay, so you're living in somewhere near.
Yeah, at Hogan. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yes, that's my house.
Yeah, 3 of us. Yeah.
Okay, now I want to just tell you there are a couple of caveats to the system, and there are problems which I've swept under the carpet, all right, which will be dealt with a few. First of all, is that if we go on doing this, obviously the database will become very cluttered with a lot of junk. And the question is, how do we delete that, right? So I'm going to create a function here called clean database, right? So here, it's called clean database, right? And the idea is that that's do anything at all, right? No, nothing to return. It's going to first look at the list of keys that we have. So it is code, right? Codes. FindMe db #add .list. Okay, let's list it out first and run this clean database thing, right? And what we can also do is we can include this at the bottom here, include admin, and do something that I'm not sure you guys have, see how to do this. You go to UI words, UI JSON words, right? Just click on that. You can just edit this. I'm going to call it clean. You can actually add more. Just be careful to add a comma. You can add more buttons if you want to, and link them up to any of your words, as long as they are found on main.m. So that's why I had to include admin, so I can then locate this word called clean database, right? So I'm just going to just call this clean database on UI words. All it's going to do for me right now is create a button, so it's convenient. It's just a convenience. Just click on this. It should then run. Yeah, of course, because I'm not rebooted it yet. Sorry. I need to close this up, go back to main, and try it again. Okay, and it says now for some reason. Clean database db. Let's see, did it do the right thing? Include admin.m, and I put admin.m out here. That's correct. And UI words is down there. That's also correct. Clean database. Let's try it again. Okay, I'm not sure why it's giving me now. Let's try it from here instead. Okay, maybe it is now. Yeah, so it is now here, which means that there's nothing to print. So it should be a dot here. But it should, yeah, there you go. Okay, so these are the items on the database that we have. And the first thing we're going to do is we're going to locate all this is the secret codes, right, that right now are registered at least with the database. Actually, more keys which I didn't register before, which are now permanently hanging in the database. But here we've got the times for each of these rooms. Okay, and what we're going to do is we're going to, so if it's now, we're going to just exit, right? Saying nothing to do. Right? But otherwise, we want to bind it to our list of codes, right? And then, so let's try it within this part here to clean database. That would just say, okay, right, good. All right, so now we've got this part done, right? So here we want to then locate all of the codes where maybe the time is within the last 15 minutes, okay? And if it's let's say if it's longer than 15 minutes, let's say longer than 1 hour, for example, it will clean up the database, right? So I need to figure out a time 1 hour into the past. All right, so it's now, and then I need to find the time, which is 60 seconds times 60 minutes for the hour times 60 seconds in the hour, and then convert to milliseconds because times in Smojo are all in milliseconds. And then I'm going to minus that and I'm going to call it T. All right, so this means that from now, this is 1 hour into the past. Okay, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to reduce. Remember, this is a list of, if I do a cs.list here and I do a clean database right now, what it's going to do is just print out, sorry, dot. What it's going to do right now is to just print out the keys followed by the times, keys followed by the times, right? So first I get all the keys, all right? And then I'm going to filter these keys by their times, right? So it is CS hash at, that will give me the time, because the input here will be the each of the keys are just the codes. The codes CS hash at will give me the times, which is the value part. And I'm going to check that it is less than 1 hour into the past. So it's T less than, that means it could be 1 hour, 2 hours or more, right? I want to just filter out, right? So this would give me a list of keys of codes, right? List of codes older than 1 hour from present. All right. So I'm just going to just copy this comment here so that you can understand what it does. All right. This means 1 hour before, sorry, before 1 hour. Okay. This is get the list of all keys. All okay. And here I can just print this out. And it'll probably be blank because, you know, all of the codes that we've done so far are, you know, less than 1 hour. All right, so sorry, clean database again. It should give me a, oh, just one key is older than 1 hour. Right? Maybe I did it at the start of the talk, and 5EE9D is way too old. Okay, so we're going to delete this from the database. So it's a two-step process. I'm going to call this my set of codes, KS. And the first step is to run a reduction to delete, right? So it's KS. How do we remove the key? It's simply FindMe and then db hash drop, right? That means this removes MOVES all old secret keys, right? Codes, sorry, all codes, along with all the locations as well. All right. So for example, before we do this, let me just check and see whether there's any data here or not. So I'm just going to check this first. I'll just copy this, sorry. I'm going to check and see, is there any data here at all? All right. So if I run that, There's no data anyway. It was actually blank already because we didn't really use that room. But the other one here, this one here has got data, right? It's got Vincent and all the other ones, right? Now, let's say, for example, I change the time from 1 hour to, let's say, the last 10 minutes, okay? Now, if we ran this, then this would also appear as well, okay? So I want to say, okay, look, I'm going to remove something, okay? So say removing, and then it's ks.list. All right, now I won't run the action. I'm just going to test it out to see what keys am I removing, right? What keys am I removing? And it'll say removing, yeah. Okay, so even this key is less than 10 minutes old. Right, so it won't be removed, but these other ones will be removed. Okay. Oh, wait a minute. I think this one wasn't in the database itself. So it's not in the list here because this was done before. Unfortunately, I put the list of codes. So it's not even on the list of codes. All right, so no worries, no matter. So we have the 60 out here. We're going to force a removal here later on. Okay. But for now, we want to just see how can we auto remove all of the old stuff. So I'm going to push it back to 60. Here, it will get the list of the codes which are older than 1 hour, and then we'll go to the FindMe database and call db hash drop for each one of those. So just remove all those codes. And then I need to also update the codes listing out here, all right? So how do I do that? I need to take CS and remove all the bad stuff. So it's KS CS hash drop. That removes it from the remove it from the CS list. All right. Let's move REMOVE. And finally, I want to save or update the main thing, right? So it's codes CS db hash add, and then I'm done. Right, so this updates a few different things. Okay, so let's try this, and it should just work. Fingers crossed. Okay. So here's only one thing that's being removed. Oh, I didn't put a dot here. All right. If I try this again, it would not say removing anything at all. Nothing at all. Okay, because there was nothing there to remove. Right. So maybe I could say KS empty. If it's empty, I just exit, say nothing, or no stale rooms, no stay. Otherwise, I can just say removing. So let me just try this again. Okay, so no stale codes. But if I change this time here to, let's say, the last 10 minutes, it will then start to remove all the rooms. Okay, these two will be removed. Because those are the only 3 that on the database. If I try it again, it probably say nothing to do. Or no stale codes. Okay, there's still stuff to do, but that means there's still rooms there, but nothing to do. Because they're not outdated yet. So I'll just change to 60 minutes, and then that's done. So now, last of all, I just wanted to remove some of the rooms which contain data, like this one here, which has all our locations. So I want to remove this completely. So I can just say remove code. All right. And here I can say, for example, it would be the code, find me, and then db drop. Okay. So here, if I say at this stage, if I just run this right now, it will give me all the locations like Pinson, etc., and so on. But if now I just say remove code, remove code, right, and I ran that, okay, and then if I can just do this in the same line, it should say now. Okay, it's gone. That data is gone. So if you go back to the display and try to update, it will just show you your own location for that room. It does nothing. There's no data which exists for that room anymore. Okay, now this code is not still complete. There's a lot of corner cases I haven't really worked on. Things like, what if the room didn't exist? What is not on the main list, for example. So there's some assumptions here that are built in, which you can clean up. But this is the rough structure of the code. The other part, I think, which is very crucial, which I swept under the carpet, is something called a database transaction. So in this case, we are doing a few different actions, like the save location, the save code. Both of these are doing more than one action. In the case of get locations, so these three functions, save location, save codes, and get locations, all three of them either retrieve the data from the database or affect the data somehow. Okay, get locations, all it does is just to retrieve the data for that code. So that's just one step. It's completely fine. But save code and save location do more than one thing in multiple steps. So you look at this carefully. The save location first gets the data for that code, and then it saves the data back once it's done the update. It's like an update mechanism. So it reads what's on the database, it makes a change to add in your location, and saves the location back. The problem is that something could go on between here and here. Okay, so that means that if someone else, for example, uploads their own location coincidentally at the same time that you're doing yours, in that fraction of a second while this is happening, all of this stuff happens within less than a millisecond. Okay, but if something happened in that less than a millisecond, then you won't get the right update. Either you won't get the data stored correctly, or you get a missing a point or something like that, right? So this is actually, when you have these kinds of reads and updates, it's better to be done in something called a transaction, where you're actually grouping together reads and writes to the database so that they're done atomically, in other words, all at once. Okay, that hasn't been implemented yet, but it is rare to have failure. Okay, that's a good news. Okay, the failure is rare. Same thing for save code as well. You're reading the codes here, you're making the update, and then of course you're writing it back to the database. And this is more likely to fail actually, because you're calling the same item more than once. Here you're calling a different item on the code side more than once, so it's less likely to fail. Here there are more users who are going to amend the main codes listing. So this is again best done through a transaction. Okay, we haven't implemented transactions yet. That's something that's going to come up in the future.